Are you looking for a February SEL lesson? My name is Dawn. I'm a retired school library teacher. In this video, I'm going to share a heartwarming read aloud and a fun writing activity to go with it. Let's go. Okay, so before you start, this is the prep that you'll have to do for your lesson. You will have to get your hands on the read aloud. It is called Somebody Loves You, Mr. Hatch, written by Eileen Spinelli and illustrated by Paul Yalowitz. So if you do not have a copy of this and you can't get it at your public library for some reason, I have a great resource for you called storylineonline.net. And that read aloud is on that website and you could use it with your students. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that resource at the end of this video. But for now, I'm going to keep giving you the list of prep. Another thing that you'll have to have besides the read aloud is you'll have to have some writing supplies for your students. They are just going to write a short note and it is a February lesson. So during the month of February, we have Kindness Month, we have Valentine's Day, and we also have Heart Health Month. So I put out note cards, envelopes, I put out construction paper, pink and red, and markers, crayons, colored pencils. I try to keep in the pink-red family there. And if I have some themed stickers for the month of February, like Valentine stickers or little hearts, I put them out as well. So you have the book, you have the writing supplies, and then the other thing that you'll need is you will need a list. Actually, 2 copies of the same list. One copy you're going to use as a checkoff list, and the other one will be cut into little tabs so that you can hand your student those tabs. The list will be of all the staff, all the faculty, all the support staff, the principals, everybody that works in your building, the teachers, the cafeteria ladies, the office staff, the nurse, the special area teachers. And it is easier if you can just list them, when you list them, to put them in alphabetical order. It'll be easy on you during the activity. So you'll need 2 copies of that list. And a couple of rolls of masking tape. So the masking tape you would put with the writing supplies. And I think that's everything. Okay, so to introduce the lesson, what I would typically have done is to tell this little story, to talk about words and how words matter. I forgot to mention that I do this lesson with 3rd grade. I'll talk about why I chose 3rd grade more towards the end of the video. But the 3rd graders sit down and I asked them if there was ever any time in their life where someone said something mean or hurtful to them. Or maybe was there a time that they themselves turned around and said something mean or hurtful to someone else. Most, if not all of them, will raise their hands. And then you could give an example, like maybe you're playing in the backyard with your brother and he gets angry at you and he turns around and he calls you ugly. While I'm having this conversation, I hold up this construction paper heart. A lot of them say, yes, that's happened to me. I always visually show them when someone uses hurtful or mean words to you, it kind of crumbles your heart a little. And although it doesn't completely break, it's hurtful. Maybe later, you and your brother are playing some more, and then he feels a little bad, and he apologizes and said he's sorry he called you ugly. While that does soothe your heart a little, your heart never really goes completely back to the way it was before. It's always good to keep in mind how powerful words can be, because they do have the power to hurt. And that there is an old saying, sticks and stones can break your bones, but words will never hurt you. But then I ask them, do they really believe that to be true? Most of them say, no, words can hurt. So I tell them that I like the saying better, sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can break your heart. It's always just something to keep in mind when we are speaking to someone else, how we use our words. That is the introduction to the lesson, kind of just talking about words and the power of words. In this example, I show how words have the power to hurt someone, and they can all relate to that. So then, the next thing I do in the lesson is the read aloud. You can read the book yourself, or you can use the resource storylineonline.net. It's a website that is produced by the Screen Actors Guild. So it is produced by actors, and all of the readers on the website sharing the read alouds are actors. So they are great storytellers, and it is a great resource that I've used many times as a librarian. Just a note on that, as a special area teacher, sometimes you could have 5, 6, 7 classes in one day. And so if I was reading this read aloud 5 times in one day, in my teacher voice, talking in my teacher voice constantly, in a special area, there's so much transition, and so you're always directing the kids in that teacher voice. And so it's pretty exhausting, and it can kill your voice. So storylineonline.net, great resource. Not only that, they also have an activity guide with every story that is a PDF file that you can download. This one is 9 pages long, and the best part, not only are there activities to go along with the story, but they also show how those activities support the learning standards, and they put the learning standards right on there for you. If you are a classroom teacher or a library teacher and you have to make a plan book and hand it in every week, every month, or periodically, and you have to show all the learning standards in your plan book, this is a great resource for you. Okay, back to the lesson. So I'm going to read the read aloud, or Hector Alessandro is going to read the book for you. But either way, you're going to share the book with the students, ask questions before, maybe during or after. I usually don't stop the read aloud to ask questions in the middle, but at the end of the story, we reflect about some of the things that happened in the story, and then I ask questions and ask the students what they thought. This way, I'm assessing their comprehension and also making them notice some points that they might not have noticed on their own without the discussion. So that's really the value in the questions and the discussion. The story itself is about a man named Mr. Hatch, and he is a very solitary man. He goes to work every day. He makes himself the same lunch. He does the same things. He works in the shoelace factory. He sits alone every day at lunch, and at the end of the day, he leaves. On his way home, he makes his usual stops at the butcher, at the newsstand. He buys the same things. He never really talks or interacts with people, and then he goes home and he goes to bed at the same time every day. One day, the postman shows up, and he is delivering a big heart-shaped box full of candy with a note. And the note says, "Somebody loves you." Mr. Hatch is just so taken aback. He doesn't know who could have sent him this. He just keeps wondering who sent him this box of chocolates and this note that says, "Somebody loves you." He can't stop thinking about it, so he goes to work, but he stops and he talks to people. He interacts differently with everybody. He makes a different lunch. He orders something different. And then over the course of weeks, his whole life slowly changes as he starts to interact and talk with his neighbors, become part of the community, and even to the point that he is handing out lemonade and brownies in his backyard and having a party for the neighbors. But then, of course, what happens is the postman returns to tell Mr. Hatch that he made a terrible mistake and that that box was never supposed to be delivered to him. It was meant for someone else. Mr. Hatch is so sad, and he doesn't know, he doesn't have the candy anymore, but he returns the box and the note, and then he falls right back into his old introverted, solitary ways of living. The neighbors notice right away, and they're worried about him. The postman lets everybody know what happened, and so they come up with a plan to make Mr. Hatch happy and to let him know that somebody truly loves him. And that's how the story ends. So then at that point, we have a conversation. I ask them, how did they think that Mr. Hatch felt when he was always alone and not talking to people and just going to work at the beginning of the story? So some of the students might say sad, they might say lonely. I take this opportunity to expand and enrich their vocabulary by using some academic words such as introverted or solitary, and I kind of just use them as synonyms in the context of our conversation. I ask them what happened to Mr. Hatch when he got that postal delivery. And so then they talk about how he changed. And so I ask them, why do they think that he changed? What made him change? So some of them say the candy, but some of them will say the note as well. Once they talk about the note, we talk about how powerful words are. Just like when your brother or sister called you ugly, and how hurtful those words are. Sometimes words can be hurtful, but they also can be helpful and so powerful in a way that changes someone's entire life the way it has changed Mr. Hatch's life. When we talk about how those words completely changed Mr. Hatch's life, it kind of leads into the activity. And I tell them that they have words, and because they have words, they also have power, and they also have the power to change someone's life, for good or bad. I tell them they are going to use their power today to make someone feel better and have a better day. I introduce the writing activity, and I tell them they are going to pick one person in the building, a teacher, the custodian, the nurse, the principal, anyone that they choose to pick. They are going to write a short note. I want them to think about someone who is special to them, or made them feel special, or did something nice, or maybe they have a good memory of that person at school, and that is who they're going to choose. Because we want to spread kindness, as much kindness as possible in the entire school, each person can only be picked once. If someone picks your favorite kindergarten teacher that you were hoping to pick, you have to have a second or third person in your mind to pick that you can write to instead. We want to spread as much kindness and happiness in the building that day as possible. At that point, I instruct them to go check out a book and then come on the line. And when they come on the line to scan it out, they're going to tell me who it is that they selected. But to keep that second and third person in the mind, because if someone has already selected that person, they have to choose their second or third choice. For the most part, it's not a problem. Sometimes you have one or two kids that just always have trouble choosing to begin with and get a little stuck, but mostly they're happy to pick someone else pretty quick. And so that's how it goes. Next part of the activity, I direct them to go check out their library book. If I have some students that didn't return their library book and they're not checking out a new one that day, they just come straight to the line. And that's where the lists come in. I have one list that I use as a checkoff, and I check it off, or I just highlight the name as they're chosen. And then the second list, I went down and pre-cut before the lesson of the names. So if I have a student that picks Mrs. Smith, his favorite kindergarten teacher, then I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm just going to clip off Mrs. Smith's name and hand it to him so that he will know how to spell it when he writes the note to Mrs. Smith. For third grade, spelling names, or actually for any grade and adults as well, spelling names is a challenge. So this makes it easier for them. Also, another thing that I do prior to the lesson, which I forgot to mention, is I either have it typed up on a slide so I can just project it on the smart board, or I might have a strip of paper that I just, write it out on there that says, "Somebody loves you." And if they want to use that as a sentence starter, they're welcome to. Some students like to kind of follow the pattern of the story, but some students might also be shy and not want to say, "I love you," and that's perfectly fine. So I tell them it's there if they wanted to use it, but it's their choice what they are writing on there. It could be, they could just write "Somebody loves you." They could write, why you are special to me, or they could put a favorite memory or something they remember about that teacher or staff member. And it could be a memory, it could be a way that something that person did to make them feel special. I really leave it up to them what they want to write. And most of them really can think of something pretty quickly. So one of the favorite things they like about this lesson is the fact that I tell them that they can sign their name, certainly sign their name if they want to, but they don't have to. If they want to keep it anonymous, another vocabulary word, if they want to keep the note anonymous, just as Mr. Hatch's note was anonymous and unsigned, then they can do that. It's totally their choice if they want to sign it or not sign it. That way, some of the kids that are a little shy too will be really honest with what they write. Once their note is written, then they take a loop of masking tape, and this is probably their favorite part of the lesson, is they put the masking tape on the back of their card, the heart, or whatever they chose to write their note on. They find a partner, and then the partners go and they find the door of the person that they wrote the note to, and they stick it to the door. They could hand deliver it and hand it right to the person if they want to. I usually don't like my students to interrupt other classroom teachers' lessons, but they love the idea of being like sneaky and a little stealthy and just taping the heart or the card to the door and sneaking away. That's a lot of fun for them. Once the students come back, that is it. Time is up. It's a 30-minute class. When you do this read aloud, depending how slow or fast you read, if you use the Storyline Online guest reader, that is 12 minutes, a 12-minute video altogether. For this lesson, they come in, they sit down. I do the little introduction lesson with the paper heart, talking about how words matter and how they could be hurtful. And then we do the read aloud. I explain to them and model the activity writing. I show them where the supplies are, and then I tell them to check out their book, come on the line, get their name, go back, do the writing activity, go off with a partner, and then they come back and they're online. So there's a lot going on in 30 minutes, and there's a lot of transition. I choose third grade because the time constraints are so tight in the library in a 30-minute class. Third graders, well, they love the story, and also in general, third graders just love to make the teacher happy, which is one of the things I love about third graders. And so this is a perfect kind of activity for them. You could do this with 4th or 5th grade. In the library, I wouldn't do it with 2nd grade, only because second graders academically, as far as reading and writing, are at such extreme ends of ability that it would be very difficult for me to do this with 2nd grade in the library. First off, I don't really know their writing capabilities. So some 2nd graders could sit down and just whip out an entire letter. And there are other 2nd graders that would struggle just to write out a complete legible sentence. I don't think that 2nd graders could transition that quickly, or I wouldn't want to put stress on them to complete that writing activity. And it will definitely stress a lot of 2nd graders to be able to do that so quickly. As a 2nd grade classroom teacher, this might be a great activity for you, because you can stretch it out over 2 or 3 days. You could do the read aloud, and then you could have a little more discussion deeper about possible things that they could write to give them a little more ideas. They could spend the first day writing a first draft, and then the second day perfecting it, maybe even decorating their cards a little more. Could be a great writing workshop activity. So because I don't have the time in the library to do that, 3rd grade is, to me, the best grade for this lesson. But I am sure that 4th and 5th grade students would love to do this as well. And if I did it with 4th and 5th grade, I would probably do it over 2 weeks, because they'll be able to retain the information, and they could write something longer and a little more meaty than the 3rd graders. If you are a homeschool parent, you could use this lesson with your child or your homeschool students, and you could do the read aloud with them, and then they could write a letter or a note to someone in their family, maybe to a friend or a neighbor or a community member. It would be a great homeschool lesson as well for the month of February. Okay, so I think that about wraps it up for this video. And remember to go out, support your libraries, support your independent bookstores, and support your right to read.